2 other judges writing that there should be a new trial entirely. Another saying the whole case should never have been allowed. And Tish James should not have brought this to begin with. She's notoriously anti-Trump, completely unethically. She ran for attorney general on the promise that she would get Donald Trump.
The attempts to destroy, imprison, and ruin Donald Trump's reputation. I mean, obviously he's president now, so I think a lot of people don't care. But, you know, when all the lawfare was happening and they were trying everything within their power to get him in jail, prison, we were all like, whoa. And I think honestly, that's what made people like empathize and understand that he really is being attacked by the other side. But he's just winning right now. He's winning a lot right now. I'm sure Letitia James is crying in a corner somewhere. But Megyn Kelly is going to go over it in this video. And it's so crazy thinking back to when this all started and how things are turning over for the better for Trump. And it's a crazy world we live in. I can't believe we're here. But before we get into that video, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to RTM News because it ensures YouTube that you're enjoying these videos. And in turn, they will continually show up in your feed and push out to more people. I'm Titus. Let's get into this video.
Let me tell you a story, okay? It was August of 2023, and or maybe it was July. And I saw Trump at a Turning Point event. This is before we kind of like, I don't know. We'd made up years ago, but this one we had the first like real glad hand and chance to see each other. And it was a very nice exchange. And I spoke with his team behind the scenes and we talked about the lawfare that he was facing. And the team made clear to me of all the criminal trials that he was facing, the thing that really had Trump stressed because it was so unfair and threatened his business to its core was this ridiculous possible indictment by Letitia James, not indictment, but civil suit that threatened to bankrupt him. And indeed, she got a hard partisan judge. She's a hard partisan, the New York State Attorney General, who ran for office promising to, quote, get Trump. And then she got a hard partisan judge, this lunatic Judge Engoron. And it was a judge trial. He had no right to a jury on it. And it didn't go his way. So this one was very important to Donald Trump. And not surprisingly, this hard partisan judge threw the book at him and entered a nearly $500 million judgment against him. It is now over $500 million with the interest that's accrued. And today it was thrown out. It's amazing. He's had to live under this for years now, not just Donald Trump, but Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, both of whom have been pulled into this and harassed by this rabid partisan posing as an objective attorney general. It's not so fun now, is it, Tish? Now that you're on the receiving end of lawfare. Unlike Trump, however, you actually appear to have broken the law. Yeah, you deny it. Well, you'll get your day in court, too.
Yo, first of all, props to Trump, I guess. You got thrown out, right? $500 million. Good thing you don't got to pay that bill, although you probably do have it, but you shouldn't have to pay it if you didn't do anything wrong. So good on him. That's crazy. And honestly, that whole situation is crazy. You should not be allowed. I'm not saying you should have a judge who is the same party as you, but there should be like, I mean, you can't control people that want to be judges and what party they're on. I don't know. Just don't think if you hate, like in specific case of Trump, if you hate Republican ideals and you hate he's literally the Republican president. There should not be some liberal judge like dealing with his case. Cause then there's going to be an inherent bias there. Honestly, I guess there's going to be bias the other way too, but I don't know. It doesn't seem fair. Like I remember thinking that, back when they were doing it before, back when he was being attacked and he was in court, and there's just super liberal judge that is literally given and donated to Democrat like fundraisers and so all that stuff. I'm like, that's sketchy. I don't know how I feel about that. I think it just makes things messy, and people aren't as good as you think they are. People aren't as rational or reasonable. It's just like, oh, I don't like you, so I'm going to try and destroy your life, as Letitia James literally campaigned on. But yeah, that's wild. But good on Trump.
We'll see how that plays out. She's lost completely. They've left in place some minor injunctive relief against the Trump organization. None of it's really going to matter that much because let's face it, the Trumps are busy doing something else for the next couple of years. And the injunctive relief that she entered against, let's say, like the Suns, was basically like, you can't run this business for the next 2 years. I think they'll be fine. They actually have some other things they can do. But this was a resounding victory for Donald Trump. The entire monetary judgment has been vacated. It's been wiped out. This is a court of Democrats. There is only one Republican appointed judge. And Republican in New York parlance basically means like a late day Mitt Romney type. So for Trump to get the support of this full court is really shocking. The court's presiding judge writing that the penalty is, quote, an excessive fine that violates the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution, which is the amendment that prohibits cruel and unusual punishments. 2 other judges writing that there should be a new trial entirely. Another saying the whole case should never have been allowed, and Tish James should not have brought this to begin with. She's notoriously anti-Trump, completely unethically. She ran for attorney general on the promise that she would get Donald Trump. She salivated thereafter at the prospect of seizing his buildings throughout New York. Guess what, Tish? It's not going to happen now. There is zero chance the New York State Court of Appeals, which is the highest court in New York State, is going to overturn this well-founded decision by the First Department. And so she's toast. It's done. We're officially awaiting her response to her massive kick in the ass. We really look forward to that, and we'll bring it to you when we get it. We haven't heard from the president yet either. We heard from Eric Trump, which I'll get to in a second. But joining me now to unpack all of this and what it means is Phil Holloway. He's contributor to MK True Crime. That's our new true crime podcast. We launch it twice a week, and it's got all your Kelly's Court favorites, including Phil. Go ahead.
Well, before she goes off into that spiel, I don't think you should be allowed to run on trying to arrest a president or former president. That shouldn't be allowed. Like running on that, don't worry, guys. If you put me as Attorney General, if you put me in this position, I'll make sure that former President Biden is arrested. Like if you're already, this is already part of the, like people are already trying to build a case for some criminal activity that someone has been involved in or allegedly has been involved in, they're coming off sketchy. That's fine. Like that's not, but to campaign on trying to imprison a former president, that's wild.
Go ahead and download that show right now. Just search MK True Crime in the podcast search bar, and on YouTube too. You can follow it. You can get Phil and our other pals doing great legal analysis on all the hot legal cases. They are going to have a lot with this one, along with Will Chamberlain, who's senior counsel at the Article 3 Project. That's, of course, Mike Davis's organization, and they do great work. Guys, welcome back. What a victory, Phil, for the sitting president.
Well, it is a victory. And, you know, we've talked about this going on, I don't know how many years now. The lawfare that was waged against Donald Trump, which is all rooted in hard partisanship, as you pointed out. You know, look, it's all crumbling, Megyn, piece by piece by piece. We saw, Fani Willis is booted off the RICO case, and now we have Tish James, and she's got her massive judgment, which really was the thing that she wanted, because this was effectively the death penalty if it was enforced, perhaps against the Trump organization. Interestingly enough, it was grounded in the 8th Amendment, which we normally see in criminal cases. It's not that often you see that in a civil case because it prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. And under the circumstances, a Democrat Court of Appeals says this is cruel and unusual. It starts out with, of course, a case based on nothing. The banks were not defrauded. There were no actual injuries. There were no money damages that were incurred by any party in this case. This was pure partisan politics. And the appeals court has said, look, this is just doesn't wash. We don't do this. We can't punish somebody in this way. It doesn't fit the allegations. And I do think before all is said and done, that the appeals process will ultimately end this case in its entirety. But for now, this was a huge victory, and I think it's going to last.
I mean, Will, this was such a cockamamie, convoluted civil case against him in the first place, with a statute that had never been used like this, saying, well, you undervalued your assets when you filed your taxes, and then you overvalued them when you wanted to get loans on favorable terms dealing with sophisticated banks, and therefore you're a fraudster. Meanwhile, it's like everyone tries to undervalue their assets when they're dealing with the IRS. And when trying to get a favorable loan with a bank, sure, you try to get the most favorable interpretation of what you own. But he was dealing with Deutsche Bank. He was not dealing with my imaginary viewer, Madge, who's in Iowa and works the farm all day and does not go over spreadsheets and corporate disclosure statements.
Also, they don't apply that same type of discipline or what's the word, characterization of behavior on anybody else who does the exact same thing. Like all these other business people, you're not doing that to Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or Mark Zuckerberg. You're not doing that. You're not checking to see how they undervalue or overvalue their assets to get benefits, how in a way that would benefit them. You don't do that. Why are you not coming for all of them? Especially as a Democrat, you guys are all about pay your fair share. So like, why are you only doing that to the former president? That's just, it was clear attempt to try and assassinate his character and try and ruin his reputation and imprison a guy that you hated because you didn't like that he was president and you didn't want him to run again. And that's just wrong, regardless of your thoughts on Trump.
Correct. And that goes right to the intent to deceive, which is necessary in any fraud case. Like they're not trying to deceive Deutsche Bank. They expect Deutsche Bank will go down, their statements of financial condition and be very, very careful and look very carefully at all their claims, all their attestations. So it was a really preposterous case from the outset. And I think, we remember one of the obvious bizarre valuations was to suggest that Mar-a-Lago was worth something like $20 million. And Tish James suggested that and said that all of Trump's claims that it was worth $500 million or more were ridiculous. Well, no, actually saying that if you've ever been to Mar-a-Lago or you're familiar with the geography of Palm Beach, it's a massive property in one of the most expensive areas for real estate in the entire world. It's a totally unique property. 20 million would be trivial to purchase it. And yet Tish James's entire theory of the case was that by saying it was worth $20 million when applying for a loan to Deutsche Bank, that the Trump organization defrauded Deutsche Bank, an absurd claim on its face.
And
that is insane. Also, I've been to Mar-a-Lago. That place was bougie. I promise you that place is no less than $20 million.
Deutsche Bank didn't complain. That was one of the ironies of this whole case, Phil, is that the banks actually came in and said, no, absolutely no harm done. We're good. He repaid the loans in full, paid the interest. We're really pleased, and we love being in business with him. And still, Tish James was in there saying, a fraud has been committed. The people of New York were defrauded. She never adequately explained why, but she had something in her back pocket, and that was an even more hard partisan judge, Engoron, who clearly wanted to be a Democratic star.
Yeah, that's insane. Honestly, Tish, whatever we calling her these days, Tish James, Tishy. No, that's like, is that not like similar? Is that defamation? Like going out of your way to legally try and imprison someone, criminalize someone because you don't like them based off an action that is done every day by businessmen, and that was worked through with this bank, Deutsche Bank, whatever they said. Like, we should be looking at Tish. That's sketchy, very sketchy. Pay the loans in full and everything too. What are we doing? What are we doing? Come on, let's get it together, guys. That's wild. Anyways, guys, yeah, I'm glad that he got thrown out. Thank God he got ridiculously attacked by this Letitia James person, and then everything, the money's doesn't have to pay $500 million. The general public didn't believe all of that lawfare anyway. That's what won him the election. Pendulum has swung. You're allowed to be conservative again. Things are changing. Borders being secure. So like, hey, a win is a win, and we just keep on winning. Frankly, we keep winning. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to comment down your thoughts below. Want to know your thoughts on this, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.